Gloria Woods, better known as GloRilla, is out on bond. This after a felony drug arrest in Georgia. According to a statement from GloRilla's attorneys, her home in Georgia was robbed while she was out of town. GloRilla's family contacted law enforcement immediately. Deputies issued a search warrant for her home after smelling marijuana.
Imagine this. It's 3 a.m. Your house gets broken into by armed burglars while you're out of town. But instead of catching the criminals, the police arrest you. This isn't a movie plot, it's what happened to rapper GloRilla. Drugs were found in her home, yet the burglars are still free. Fans say it's a clear case of injustice, while critics call it karma. Today, we're diving deep into this shocking story, where a victim became the suspect. Watch till the end to uncover the real truth behind the headlines. Welcome back to Fame Drop, and get ready because this one feels like a crime drama gone off script. Rapper GloRilla, real name Gloria Woods, is now facing 2 serious felony drug charges, despite not even being home when the trouble began. It started with a violent late-night break-in at her Atlanta area house while she was out of town, but instead of catching the masked intruders, police ended up arresting her after claiming they found illegal substances during their investigation. The charges, one for a Schedule I controlled substance and another for marijuana over the legal limit, have left fans stunned, especially since the burglars are still free. This isn't her first legal issue this year either. She was hit with a DUI charge in Gwinnett County just months ago. Supporters argue she's being targeted, while her lawyers call the case a blatant example of misplaced priorities. The break-in itself was intense. Early on July 20th, 3 armed suspects slipped into her home, only to be confronted by a family member who fired shots in self-defense, forcing them to flee with stolen high-end jewelry. Now, what should have been a straightforward robbery investigation has spiraled into a legal storm, with the hip-hop community watching every twist like it's the next big episode in a series they can't stop following. Relatives were left shaken and terrified after the break-in, and police rushed to the scene within minutes of a frantic 911 call. But instead of chasing the armed robbers, the investigation took a sharp and unexpected turn. Officers claimed a strong smell of marijuana was coming from inside the home, prompting them to call in the drug task force. A search warrant quickly followed, and when deputies returned, they reported finding marijuana in plain view inside the master bedroom closet, along with a Schedule I controlled substance, though they're keeping exactly what that substance was under wraps for now. The real shock came next. Even though GloRilla hadn't been home for days, she was still hit with 2 felony charges, simply because the drugs were discovered in her bedroom. What could have been a straightforward robbery case suddenly morphed into a legal plot twist worthy of a movie script. Instead of hiding from the storm, GloRilla walked straight into it, turning herself in at Forsyth County Jail on Tuesday, July 22nd. She was booked, processed, and released the same day after posting a $20,260 bond. For many fans, the whole thing felt less like justice and more like punishment for what was found in her home, not for anything she actually did while she was away. GloRilla wasn't about to stay silent. Just hours after news of her arrest lit up the internet, her attorneys, Marissa Goldberg and Drew Finland, fired back with a blistering statement to TMZ. They slammed the charges as a warped display of law enforcement's misplaced priorities, stressing that GloRilla wasn't even home when the break-in happened. Instead of tracking down the armed intruders who terrorized her family, police chose to target her, turning the victim into the headline suspect. The lawyers argued that she's the only person facing charges, not the masked burglars who actually kicked in her door, calling it a blatant failure of justice. Ms. Woods is a victim, not a suspect, they insisted, blasting authorities for focusing on a small stash of marijuana and undisclosed substances while ignoring the violence and trauma inflicted on her loved ones. To make matters worse, no suspects have been caught, no names released, and no solid leads shared with the public. The real perpetrators are still free, yet the media spotlight burns solely on GloRilla. When the news of her arrest hit social media, the internet erupted within minutes, with thousands weighing in on the controversy and questioning how the system could get it so backward. The story didn't just spread, it detonated across the internet like a cultural flashpoint. Within hours, social media platforms were ablaze with heated debates, emotional posts, and a flood of hashtags. The most dominant, #FreeGlow, rose to the top of trending lists on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, uniting a massive chorus of voices in outrage. GloRilla's notifications became a digital tidal wave. Every time she opened her phone, there were thousands of new messages, some furious, others heartbroken, and many simply confused. Supporters filled her comments with words of encouragement and fiery calls for justice, determined to amplify her side of the story. The rallying cry that swept across timelines was blunt, emotional, and impossible to ignore. How can you be charged for something that happened in your house when you weren't even in the state? That single sentence captured the disbelief of her fans and condensed their outrage into a viral soundbite. It wasn't just a question, it was an accusation aimed squarely at the justice system. For her supporters, the facts seemed straightforward. She had been out of town, a violent break-in occurred, and yet somehow, she was the one in handcuffs. To them, it looked like a textbook example of injustice, with their favorite artist being made a scapegoat in a story where she should have been recognized as the victim. But the digital crowd was far from unanimous. Alongside the wave of solidarity came a countercurrent of skepticism. A vocal segment of critics seized the moment to bring up GloRilla's history, pointing to past incidents as evidence that this wasn't a case of pure innocence. They reminded everyone that this wasn't her first time making headlines for the wrong reasons, framing the situation as part of a pattern rather than a fluke. Some detractors argued that GloRilla's lifestyle and the company she kept were part of the problem. They painted a picture of an artist who, while talented, wasn't careful about her surroundings or possessions. If you leave trouble lying around, one viral tweet read, "Don't be surprised when it finds you." Harsher voices went even further, dismissing the sympathy altogether and labeling her current legal mess as nothing more than karma, the inevitable price, they claimed, for living fast, speaking boldly, and skirting the rules. As the battle lines formed, memes began to flood the conversation. Some were lighthearted, poking fun at the absurdity of the situation, while others carried sharp political undertones. Instagram and TikTok filled with quick-cut video edits comparing GloRilla's arrest to high-profile cases of other celebrities, sparking debates about double standards. On Twitter, long threads dissected every available detail about the break-in, the search warrant, and the arrest. Self-styled internet detectives combed through public records, police statements, and leaked tidbits from supposed insiders, building elaborate timelines and theories about what really happened that night. One popular theory among her defenders was that the arrest was about more than just the substances found in her home. To them, it looked like GloRilla was being singled out, not because the evidence against her was airtight, but because her star power was rising quickly, and she had never shied away from speaking her mind. She wasn't the kind of artist to stay silent on social or political issues, and to some, that made her a threat to certain people in power. This narrative gained traction as fans shared clips of her past interviews and social media posts where she spoke candidly about injustice, inequality, and the struggles of coming up in the music industry. Meanwhile, others tried to frame the case within a larger cultural conversation. What began as a celebrity arrest was now evolving into something much bigger, a debate on race, fame, and how the justice system handles high-profile figures compared to everyday citizens. Commentators pointed out that public opinion often shifts dramatically based on who the accused is, with celebrity status either cushioning the blow or amplifying the backlash. In GloRilla's case, her fame seemed to be doing both, earning her a fiercely loyal support base while also making her a bigger target for criticism. The situation also opened up another heated discussion. Where exactly is the line between personal privacy and public accountability? Some argued that what happens in a celebrity's private space, even their home, should not be subject to the same invasive scrutiny unless it directly impacts the public. Others countered that fame comes with heightened responsibility and that public figures can't expect to keep certain parts of their lives off limits when those parts involve possible criminal activity. Despite the chaos, GloRilla's core supporters refused to back down. To them, she wasn't a criminal. She was a victim of over-policing and a glaring example of how misplaced priorities can derail someone's life. They pointed to the fact that the armed burglars who invaded her home and terrified her family were still at large, with no suspects named or arrested. How, they asked, could law enforcement devote more energy to charging the homeowner than catching the intruders? This frustration was summed up perfectly in a post that went viral across multiple platforms. She wasn't even there. You're telling me you can get robbed and arrested in the same week? The post was screenshotted, shared, and remixed into countless memes and TikToks, becoming the unofficial slogan of the #FreeGlo movement. As the days passed, the online conversation didn't die down. It intensified. Journalists began covering the hashtag as part of the larger story, adding fuel to the fire. Music blogs, gossip sites, and even mainstream news outlets debated her innocence, her image, and what the case might mean for her career. And through it all, GloRilla herself stayed mostly quiet on social media, letting her lawyers do the talking while her fanbase kept the noise alive. Whether people believed she was being unfairly targeted or simply facing the consequences of her own choices, one thing was clear: the world was watching closely. And in an age where public opinion can shift in a heartbeat, the fight for her reputation was playing out in real time, one tweet, one TikTok, and one headline at a time. As GloRilla's arrest dominated headlines, internet sleuths started digging into her past, and it didn't take long for old stories to resurface. Back in April 2024, she was pulled over in Gwinnett County, Georgia, for making a U-turn at a red light. What could have been a routine traffic stop escalated quickly when officers claimed to smell marijuana and alcohol in the car. GloRilla admitted she'd been drinking, and body cam footage later released online showed her appearing unsteady, struggling through parts of the sobriety test, and even laughing off a question. The clip sparked debates over whether she fully grasped how serious the situation was. The DUI didn't land her behind bars, but it left a blemish. And now, with felony drug charges in the mix, people are questioning whether this is just bad timing or the start of a troubling pattern. Some fans argue she's being targeted because of her fame and flashy lifestyle, while others believe she's inviting trouble with risky choices and the company she keeps. Either way, the perception is beginning to cast a shadow over one of hip-hop's fastest rising stars. Still, Glo isn't slowing down. In the middle of the legal chaos, she dropped the music video for her new single Typa, featuring NFL wide receiver Xavier Legette as her shirtless on-screen love interest. The two share flirty moments, slow-burn bedroom scenes, and a kiss that sent fans scrambling to replay. The chemistry sparked instant dating rumors, fueled by her lyrics about a country guy who knows how to please her, a description that seems to fit Legette perfectly, from his southern charm to his thick accent. The video also boasts a cameo from Keisha Cole, whose iconic track Love is sampled in the song, adding even more star power to the rollout. Between the steamy visuals and the legal drama, GloRilla has managed to keep both the music charts and the gossip blogs talking. Between the eye-catching visuals, swirling rumors, and high-profile guest features, Glo is proving that her brand is still in motion, determined, resilient, and unwilling to fade quietly into the background. Despite the heavy shadow of felony charges hanging over her, she has managed to keep her music and image alive in the public eye, reminding fans and critics alike that she's more than just the headlines. But behind the glamour, the past few weeks have revealed a far messier reality. Just days before her arrest, Glo was in St. Louis for a highly anticipated concert, a show that had sold out in advance and drawn fans from across the region. What should have been a celebration of her success turned unexpectedly chaotic. Midway through her set, multiple fights broke out in the crowd. Security scrambled to break them up, but the tension kept flaring. Glo, visibly concerned, paused her performance and addressed the audience directly, urging them to stop. "You're not at war," she told them, her voice equal parts frustration and plea. But the atmosphere had already shifted. Pockets of unrest continued to erupt, and the once electric energy of the room had turned uneasy. After several failed attempts to restore calm, Glo made the difficult decision to walk off stage, ending the show early for the safety of everyone in the building. Her team later issued a short but firm statement: "Safety comes first." While the move was praised by some as a responsible choice, it also fueled chatter online. Some critics used the moment to paint a picture of her career as being increasingly surrounded by disorder, adding to the narrative that trouble seems to follow her. That incident became just one more thread in the complex web of challenges currently surrounding her. Between ongoing legal battles, unpredictable shows, public controversy, and relentless media coverage, Glo now stands at a critical point in her career, the kind of crossroads that can either make or break an artist's future. Every move she makes is under a microscope, analyzed and debated in real time by millions of people who have never met her but feel invested in her story. Her legal team continues to push back forcefully against the charges, emphasizing a key fact: Glo wasn't anywhere near her home when the drugs in question were discovered. They maintain she had been out of town for days, and that it's both unreasonable and unjust to hold her responsible for what was found during a burglary investigation. Fans echo this argument loudly through the #FreeGlo hashtag, which has become a rallying banner for supporters across social media platforms. The posts are passionate and relentless, framing her as a victim of over-policing and misplaced priorities. But not everyone is convinced. Legal experts have stepped into the conversation, reminding the public that Georgia's felony drug laws leave little room for leniency. The statutes are notoriously strict, and possession charges, especially those involving Schedule I substances, can carry severe penalties, even if the accused wasn't caught in the act. The reality is that the court may not care about the optics, the public sympathy, or the celebrity status. In the eyes of the law, evidence found in a home can be enough to establish possession, and that makes the stakes for Glo incredibly high. Meanwhile, the unanswered questions surrounding the actual break-in continue to frustrate both fans and observers. The armed suspects who kicked in her door, fired shots, and stole high-value jewelry have yet to be identified, let alone arrested. No names have been released, no descriptions shared, and no public leads have surfaced. To many, it's a glaring failure in priorities. The real culprits are free, yet the homeowner is the one facing charges. This imbalance has become a central talking point for her supporters, who see it as proof that Glo is being targeted not because of what she did, but because of who she is. Her fame, they argue, makes her an easy target, a high-profile arrest that generates headlines, satisfies a narrative, and draws attention to law enforcement's actions, regardless of whether it leads to justice. The more cynical voices in the debate suggest that celebrity cases like this are often as much about publicity as they are about the truth. Right now, Glo is walking a tightrope stretched over two equally dangerous arenas. On one side is the courtroom, where her fate will be decided according to the letter of the law and the strength of the evidence. On the other is the court of public opinion, a far less predictable space where perception can shift in a heartbeat. Winning in one arena doesn't guarantee survival in the other. A legal victory could still leave her brand tarnished, while a loss could mean the end of her career as she knows it. Her next few moves will be decisive. Whether she chooses to address the public directly, continue letting her lawyers handle the messaging, or focus solely on her music, each choice will shape the narrative. The months ahead will determine whether this chapter becomes the foundation of a redemption arc, the story of an artist who faced impossible odds and came out stronger, or a cautionary tale about how quickly momentum can turn into freefall. For now, the cameras are still rolling, the headlines are still coming, and the conversation online hasn't slowed. Glo remains in the spotlight, not just as an entertainer, but as the central figure in a case that has become about more than her. It's a story touching on justice, celebrity, and the fragile balance between personal responsibility and public perception. And until the verdict comes down, in both the legal system and the public's eyes, she will keep fighting on both fronts, one performance, one court date, and one headline at a time.